Hello and welcome back to the channel. Having a bit of a nightmare this evening trying to get this wheel off the van. I've tried everything, penetrating fluid, using obviously the normal bar that comes with the van, also a slightly larger breaker type bar, but just not been able to do it. But just a minute ago I had a breakthrough. So before I show you what's worked for me, let me just show you one of the other problem nuts, because all of them I'm struggling with. What? Almost. So, and I'm not light, but whatever I do, this just isn't moving. This is let alone even doing any of this by hand. But let me just show you what works. Firstly, by making sure you're using plenty of penetrating fluid. And also making sure none of that goes on the disc brake. Now what I managed to find was a rather large bit of pipe. So hang on a sec, let me just go get it. You'll agree this is quite extreme. And being careful not to scrape the face of the wheel or indeed the van itself. And now, as you can see, that's moving freely. I won't take it all the way out because I want to jack the car up. So I've now managed to get 2 of them off like that, so just another 3 to go and then we'll be job done. But let me just prepare the car for jacking first. So on to the most difficult one, which is the locking wheel nut. Which is the last one. Let's just see if we can get this one off. Well, that didn't quite go as planned. Okay, so what you want to do is you want to pull it down towards you, and I'm going to try and keep this in. Is that moving? I think that's moving. Right, let's stop and let's just take that out and let's see if it turns, or the locking wheel nuts come out of the there we go. I think the answer to that is it's come out. Right, if you can just try that again. I've got a horrible feeling this locking wheel nut and this nut has got to come out. Right, on then. Right, stop. Okay, so we're a day further on, and even though I can now loosen all these, the locking wheel nut though is not playing ball at all. Not entirely surprising given the struggle I've had. Now if you look closely as well, hopefully you can see that, that's also not looking in the best of shape either. Let me show you how another one of the locking wheel nuts we got in the car actually looks. Let's just move to the front. Hopefully you can see the difference there. Now that one's in perfect condition. Now the other thing to point out with these is it has a collar. Hopefully you can see that moving. So there's a few options that I've got to try and get this off, but what I'm going to try and do is to see if I can get that off and then get a socket on what we've got left. If not, I'm going to try and use a bolt extractor. Now going back to the rears, as you can see, in here it's actually much more recessed, so it's a lot more difficult to get to. So I'm going to try and put a drill in between the main bit of the bolt and this collar. So let's give that a go right now. Okay, I've just got a small drill bit, so let's just give that a go on a quite low setting and just see if we can make any inroads into that collar. So all I'm doing here is using a standard titanium drill bit, and you'll see very soon how well that goes. And something else I've done as well, just for a very basic level of protection, but just put some tape around and just within the barrel of the wheel, because obviously the last thing I want to do is damage the alloy wheel as well and have to get that refurbished. Let's just bring you in. Mainly just polishing it at the moment, but there is some slight progress. So let's just persevere. Before we carry on with the drilling, as in case you were wondering, I did try and get that collar off the bolt just using screwdrivers and other tools that I had available. But the problem is they just weren't really up to the job, they're not really strong enough, and that collar is a really strong security feature, as after all, it's supposed to stop someone stealing your alloy wheels. And the other complication is as well, especially when trying to get sort of bigger heavy duty tools in to do the job, is because the bolt is so well recessed inside that wheel. So really the only way forward is to continue with the drilling. Just put my magnetic torch in the gap just to see if we can pull out all of the spoil as a result of the drilling. Well, while not pulling everything else off as well. Ah, see, we are making progress. It's quite a cool effect actually, isn't it? Look at that. Let's have a look in there, see how it's looking now. There you go. I think the problem is the hole's actually moved inboard to the bolt coming off the collar, so we're going to have to see what we can do about that. Plus, after 2 hours of drilling, we haven't really got very far. So not really getting anywhere with my normal drill bits, so this morning I've gone out and purchased some cobalt based drill bits, as well as some lubrication to help when drilling, because I understand that less is a bit more, certainly when it comes to pressure anyway, and being very careful not to blunt the drill bit. So let's give these a go and see if we can make a bit more progress. It wasn't exactly a night and day difference, at least initially, but after a bit of time I found what worked, and essentially that's minimal pressure, fairly slow speeds, especially as the drill bits get bigger. I did start with a smaller drill bit and built up, and making sure it was kept well lubricated. Basically just letting the drill bit do the work. And as I'd started making progress, what I thought I would do was actually start another hole, and that's what you can see me doing now. Just trying to get closer to that collar so that I can actually break it off and then hopefully be able to put a socket on the bolt. And that's what's come out in the last 5-10 minutes. So there's been quite a bit of spoil. Let's just see if we can use this to help us. There you go. What I was hoping was that with even more drilling, that would actually break the collar. However, if that didn't, then I was prepared to use one of the bolt extractors that I bought, just to hopefully add just a little bit more pressure and get it to snap. Wow. Look at everything that's actually come out of the wheel. I thought we'd be through the other side of the car by now with all that. I think the hole is now big enough. Let's just see if we can put one of these bolt extractors in. See if we can get this to bite in and see if this works. Otherwise, we're going to have a problem. Trying to be careful. That is going in though. I've got a horrible feeling that's not a good sound. Let's just take it out, see what's happened. Oh no, it's okay. Ah! That may have just cracked. It has. That has just cracked the outer collar. That actually may have been good news. Let's see if we can pull that out. But as you may expect, it was never going to be that straightforward and was going to need just a little bit of finessing. So close now to getting that collar out. Let's keep trying. Wow. How much effort was that took? So with the collar now successfully off, it's now time to go and get some sockets and see which one that you can get to tightly fit over what's left of the nut or bolt. Now, it did take quite a bit of effort, and I did have quite a few goes at hammering various ones on just to see what would work and what wouldn't work. And I finally settled on a 16mm socket, as that seemed to fit the best. And don't forget, you're not going to be using this again after you've done with it here. It's going in the bin. Well, that socket's dead then. So 16mm is too small, 17mm slips off. Right, let's try again. So when that little trick of trying to hammer on a slightly undersized socket over the bolt didn't work, I actually then went out and bought some specialist wheel removal tools exactly for this purpose, and it was actually the threaded ones which I managed to find in stock somewhere locally. However, after many attempts, I just couldn't get them to bite into the bolt. Didn't matter what I did, no matter how gentle or how hard I tapped them on, they just wouldn't bite. So couldn't get any further with them either. I was now rapidly running out of options of what I could actually do myself on the driveway. I could either continue to drill it out and try and remove the head of the bolt, or, and that would enable me to at least get the wheel off, or I could actually try and use the largest bolt extractor and try and take it off using that. Now, I didn't do that straight away because I was just really concerned about snapping that off. This wheel was on, or this bolt was on so tight, keeping the wheel on the car, the last thing I wanted to do was actually add more problems to the problems that I already had. But there was very little else I could do now, so really it was time to go all in. fantastic. Thanks very much for joining me. I think today was more of a lesson about, well, I say today, I've been doing this over a couple of days. I think it's more of a lesson about what not to do rather than what to do, but either way we got the right result. So please subscribe and like, and I'll see you again soon with some more videos.